3 down, 1 to go, in a show that has lasted well past its runtime, I feel. But Walter's tree is one of the best we've seen, so this shouldn't take long. However, it will take a deeper dive in some directions not yet taken, like how our scouts now boast a 15 sanity per minute story time over his original 10. And while I swear I read in one of the hotfixes that it would increase with more players nearby, that is not what I've been able to find myself at all. Regardless, that mechanic will come back later once the skill is active, so for now, you best call your trusty steed back to your side wherever you are in the world, as yes, it's possible to be separated nowadays, but I wouldn't worry too much about losing her one bit. Oh no. She has become such a good girl now that she even comes with all sorts of toggleable commands that will grow in number as you select various perks to come. But before that happens, we need to highlight how all mounts can be fed while we ride them moving forward, how Woby's storage specifically is able to be accessed from atop her back now, her built-in insulation for Walter whenever he's a little nippy in winter, and of course, her hunger meter there, all of which comes free of charge. His slingshot customization, however, is anything but free. Initially, we can expect to be crafting a field kit, a pigskin slingshot band, a bony frame, and some grip tape, all of which can be attached on the fly for all sorts of various improvements to our default giant slayer. But to see said difference, you have to literally see said difference, something that won't be so easy with the pig band here, as while it does increase the range, we're talking mere inches. No. Range means nothing, honestly, as it will be the potential DPS of the grips that grab your attention, I feel. That was the default fire rate of a slingshot versus the first of the several upgrades to it before you now, and be sure to note that there is a ramp up period before we can fully start blasting dudes. Oh, and before we do just that, the bony frame lets a slingshot hold more ammo overall, as you can see. Got it? Good. As now comes the real fun, with the 3 advanced grips here. First thing you should note is that both the Glommer and Jelly grips automatically begin at max fire rate without a ramp up time. And secondly, the former will make it to where your slingshot never slips from your hand due to wetness. But the Jelly grip here is objectively better, so until you get the Void grip, one that both fires fast by default, only to ramp up for even more DPS later, you should stick to the Royal Jelly if you can. But next comes advanced bands that at first glance might appear lackluster with its flailing slingshot band that will increase our ranges ever so slightly once more with another 10% increase to our projectile speeds, mind. But with a bit of post-endgame sleuthing, we can use ordinary chests to turn them into possessed slingshot bands. Unfortunately though, this does nothing to our ranges, but it will still make it to where our slingshots have a 30% chance to not use ammo per shot. But to wrap this branch up comes advanced frames that will introduce our most expensive upgrade yet. The scrappy slingshot frame here will be our introduction to special attacks, and in this particular case it is a charge shot that can potentially deal double damage to anything it hits. The scrappy or slingshot frame is exactly the same, only for the cost of an enlightened shard and then some, you will then be able to boast an ammo capacity of 4,294,967,246 thanks to that elastic spacer. And lastly, the Thule sight frame here not only allows for Walter to fire his top ammo with a special attack before returning to the bottom type at will, all magic slingshot pellets will deal an area of effect strike when used within said Thule sight slot. So take advantage. As now's the time to talk the most straightforward buffs around, the scouting tree. Twine Twirler lets Walter craft a rope at spawn at the cost of 2 grass instead of 3 and at lightning speeds. Pioneer's Panache will tweak every Pine Tree Pioneer hat into giving us 35% weapons protection over 20, 120 insulation in summer over the original 60, and turns Walter's damage to sanity drain multiplier down even further to a 0.5 times instead of a 1 times. Special treats follow suit and are refined via Monster Jerky specifically to provide a quote-unquote snack for all, sure, but they are best at rocketing Woby's hunger to maximum in but 2 bites. Field Medic grants us the ability to craft the Flutter Strips here at the cost of 3 butterfly wings that will heal most players for 24, restore 10 sanities to Walters with this perk active, heal Field Medic Walters for 34 specifically, as you probably saw, and that's because it also increases the healing rates of all healing items by 50% overall, so enjoy that, while also bringing having your stories on the go like never before. These are neat and retain their fuel while you do dismantle and relocate them, but the biggest takeaway should be the insane buff to storytime sanity regen, as it will now be a whopping 40 sanity per minute. But once again, not for everyone, mind. But finally, Let's Rack and Roll gives our girl a portable drying rack with 3 slots each and will work the same as any other drying rack out there in the world. Have fun. As we need to talk Woby specifically, she's got some truly enjoyable stuff now. Woby here, Woby there allows for us to mark a location or player of our choosing, only for us to be able to send her to said indicator whenever we decide it's time to clear a pack. She will nap off pretty quickly, only to materialize at the designated spot a minute or so later, where she will then unpack herself. Then, after another half minute or longer, she will run off and return to our side. It's pretty cool, but a little finicky. So let us stick to what we do know. Woby is speed. With but one click, she'll already be clipping along quite well, but don't discount the 20% less hunger drain effects from endurance either. They're small, but they are there. As will Woby's willingness to help us clean up after ourselves, with roaming retriever there, and her proclivity to quite literally duplicating berries, banana trees, mushrooms, lichen, cactus, lesser glowberries, and even gloom thorns through furry forager, as you can see. To continue, hard-headed will allow for us to chop and mine wit/forest at the cost of an increased hunger drain. Gruffy sprinter and dashing doggy will see Woby being able to achieve saddled beefalo leveled speeds after 3 seconds of uninterrupted running, while also granting her the dash ability at the cost of 2 hunger per. And finally, Shadow Woby's affinity gives her a literal shadow dash costing 3 hunger each instead, whereas Lunar Woby can dash/sprint to her heart's content without any extra hunger cost, but only on the Lunar Island, during full moons, or down in the Lunar Grotto. Enjoy! As it's time we wrap up this update, as we started it with all of Walter's ammo types. Shattering rounds gives us Stinger and Moonshot rounds, where the former will deal 25.5 direct and 17 AoE damage to anything they hit, and the latter will bump both of those up to 51 and 34 respectively. Utility rounds introduces honey stickies and shock scrap pellets into the mix, and the former will slow down enemies by 60% for 8 seconds, whereas the shock scrap are electrical, meaning they will deal more damage to wet targets. Lucky rounds is next, and offer us a gunpowder kablooey round and dread pebbles, where the former have a chance to blow up and hit multiple targets for 119 damage over the individual 59.5, where the latter deals 68 damage to non-lunar based mobs, have a 50% chance to not break upon impact, and can be synergized with both the Void Cowl and Slingshot grip for even more potential DPS. As you can see, Shadow Slinger follows and gives us Ickies and Pure Horror rounds that will see us being able to slow targets for 60 seconds overall, and stack them for even slower movements, mind, and give us tick damage. Pure Horrors will hit for about 107 damage in total, but 70 of that comes from little shadow dudes doing damage over time, as you can see. And yes, the Void Gear leads to more ticks, and thus more damage, and everything will deal more damage to lunar enemies, but the simplicity of Lunar Slingers is what entices me, as both its Bright Shade and Pure Brilliance rounds will deal their direct damages, have some fun with some slapping tentacles in some cases, and then leave a debuff on our targets that allow for us to deal 5 extra planar damage per hit with any planar weapon, but also a double damage with the Bright Shade staff itself. Not bad. And there you have it, everyone. The Walter skill tree in its entirety, including the chance to craft 10 more ammos per recipe, or simply become a hoarder of everything with this new ammo pouch that will hold 6 types in 1 slot while on the go. But speaking of, after over 3 months of just this one update and these characters, it's time for us to go too. Thanks for holding to. Well wishes to all. We're about to discuss the future of Don't Starve Together very shortly, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.